Hey, in this video I'm going to review part 2 of Access 2010 The Missing Manual, chapters 6 through 9. So I'll go over basic queries, criteria filtering, inner versus outer joins, the difference between joins and relationships, and basically how object dependencies work and how you can update data with relationships, and how when you try to change data in joins it doesn't really change because joins are temporary and relationships are permanent. And then I'll go over the query wizard for Crosstab queries and some basic SQL. And then in the next chapter, chapter 7, I'll go over like calculated fields, functions, different like calculations and functions that you could use to manipulate data, expression builder, total query to group data, and parameters to pull data from a certain group quicker. And then I'll go over the action queries, which you can use to update, append, or delete data really quickly. So in this first part, I guess I'm just going to open this up and go to design view. So each query, they have datasheet view, which just has the data, and they have design view, which is where you select the tables or the queries to add to the thing. And then each of these down here are the fields or the columns that you select from the tables or the queries. So if I close this out and then right click and click show tables, you get that over there. So basically up here I have like the order details table, the orders table, and the customers table. And basically the order details, the order ID column is linked to the ID in the orders column, orders table, and then in the orders table, the customer ID is linked to the ID in the customers table. So that's how these three tables are kind of linked. And not all data from one table will be available in the other table, but anything that is related you'll be able to include in an inner join. And then with an outer join you can include all the data, although some columns will be missing because both of the tables don't have that data. So I guess to begin with, I'm just going to go over like this criteria thing down here. So in the orders table, because you can see the table here, there's a column called date placed. Column is field in Access. So in orders, I'm going to open up the orders table, and this column has date placed over here. And if you go to design view for the table, you can see it says date time. So when you're working with dates, this is greater than or equal to January 1st, 2010. And before or equal to November 5th, 2020. So both of these criteria have to be true, and then it will filter this column based on this criteria down here. So that's how you do, you could just do equals that just to filter just by only that day, but that's how you do, work with dates. If you want to work with like first names, like you do equals, double quotes, Otis, double quotes, and you go to datasheet view, and it filters by only that particular text value. You have to put double quotes for text values. And I mean, if you want to work with numbers, let's see what the quantities are. 1, 8. See how it's like 1 or 8? I'm just going to go to design view, and I want anything greater than 5. Click run, and it only returns one record, 1 of 1, which is the one that was 8. So I'm going to close this out and actually create a cleaner query. So I'm going to go to create and query design, and if this isn't shown over here on the right, then you can right click over here and then select show table. And I'm going to add in a orders and customers table to show inner joins versus outer joins. So let me just open up the customers table real quick and the orders table so you can see what they look like. Here's the orders table, and here is the customers table. So not all customers place orders, but overall, let's see, I'll do first name, last name. You just double click the columns to add them to the query down here automatically. You could also click down here and then select like customers.id, it means the customer's table. And then the ID column, customers.first name, is the customer's table and first name column, etc. But you can just select the columns by double clicking up here. So I'm going to select first name, last name, and ID. And then I'm going to select over here customer ID. And I'm going to click datasheet view. So right now I have 9 customers in total. And over here, it looks like I have 10 customers in total. And over here, it looks like I have 9 orders. So what this is showing is all the customers who placed orders. And if I go to join properties, and let me just go back to my one second. Let me just find my place. So I'm going to include all the customers and only those records from orders where the join fields are equal. So I'm going to click run. So basically, now it shows all the customers who didn't place an order. So Patrick Persuasion, Chang Zhu, and Melissa Hancock. They didn't place orders, as you can see, because they're not on the customer ID, which is from the orders table. So 1, 2, 3. And then Lamone and Radwanda and Grayson, they placed 2 orders each. So that's why, see how Lamone's on here twice, Grayson's on here twice, and then what else is on there twice? Lamone, Randawa. Yeah, Randawa's on there twice. So what I did basically is I did a design view and I right clicked on the join properties, and normally the top one is it just includes so see this customers table, this ID is linked to this customer ID and orders. ID is the primary key in customers and customer ID is the foreign key in orders, and they're linked because the records within the orders table, the customer ID is the same and matched to the customer's ID from customers. So basically, if I click over here, I click include all records from customers, then that will include all the customers, and then only those records from orders where the join fields are equal. So it includes all the records from customers, and then everything that is an inner join from customers and orders. So everything that's the same between these two, and then everything from here. That's what an outer join basically is, and that's why I'm able to see all the customers with this type of join. So if I were to actually filter by like is null over here and click run, then I get exactly all the customers who didn't place an order. So that's how you could pull up everyone who didn't place an order. So let me see, I guess the next part is I'll go over let me switch to a different database real quick to show a different example. It's going to take a few seconds to load up. So, and right now I'm going to show you like the difference, I guess, between joins and relationships in tables. So in my last video, I showed you how to create relationships between tables. We explained how like manufacturers has each manufacturer makes multiple dolls, but no two manufacturers work together to make a doll. So I mean, let's open up the dolls in the manufacturers table. So basically, in this relationship, a manufacturer is is the one, and then the many in the relationship is the dolls, because they can make many dolls. So the manufacturers, here are each of the manufacturers, and then you can see the many underneath them if you click the plus sign, because these are each of the dolls that, like, Hopper Garden makes Edgar Allan Poe and James Joyce, and then Magic Plastic makes Frodo, Yoda, and Tiger Woods. So it would make 3 dolls. So you can see the many under the plus sign and the one side of the relationship. So the thing about when you create a relationship for 2 separate tables is, say if I close everything out, say if I want to try to change Hopper Garden, it says it doesn't let me do that because it's not available, and you're not allowed to edit manufacturers in the many side of the relationship, because that's not where the data originated from. And so the data over here, if I update Hopper Garden to that, and then I close this out, notice how it's already updated in the dolls. Once I close out the table, it updates wherever the data is getting pulled from. So now the data is changed in this one, and that's, I guess, why relationships are important in Access, because you could update it in one place, and then all the other tables and queries that rely on it, they automatically get updated too. So you could spend less time updating data, and it'll update a lot faster, because you only have to update it one spot, and then it just like flows everywhere else. And then over here on object dependencies, you can see which tables rely on which tables. So right now I'm looking at the dolls table, and the dolls table relies on the manufacturers table. So I mean, I don't really think object dependencies is you can see objects that depend on me and objects that I depend on. So I don't really particularly think this is that useful, but I mean, if you're new to a database, you could kind of use it to figure out like which columns are linked where. I mean, if you don't have like the relationship map up there, I guess let's see. I'll go over. Should I go over the query wizard? Yeah, I'll go over the query wizard now. So before I was just doing the query design, which is how I do most of my queries. Let me close out that and close out. Let me create another query just to show another example of outer joins. So notice how like the relationship is already there. So basically I click manufacturer and I think character, and I'll click run. So notice how it has 9 records, because these are the records that are in both of the tables. And then let me open up dolls and manufacturers. So fictional industries, Hopper Garden, Magic Plastic, all dolled up, and Republicans. Yeah, so basically there are 9 like, see, there are not, it says there are 10 records here, but this last one is blank. So this last one can't match to manufacturers because there's no blank manufacturer on here. So this inner join, when you run it, it just returns 9, because those are the records that are similar. Because in this relationship between the 2 tables, they're linked by manufacturer ID to manufacturer ID, and it just so happens that this manufacturer ID is blank, so it doesn't match to anything. But if you, in the query, this was an inner join. This is just an inner join. So if I go to join property, because the relationships, they're basically joins, but they get auto joined based on how you set up the relationship, and they last. The relationships last forever, and the data and all the indexes built on them, and all the like the fact that it like requires unique values, and like the fact that the index is sorted alphabetically for faster lookup, and that it's unique is all inherent to the relationship. But joins are just temporary joins between queries. So if you set up like a join in a query, like say if I delete right click and that's deleted. Say if this didn't like the relationship never existed before, then basically you just drag that over to that, and then you just make a join, and it doesn't have like the signs or anything. But if I go to include all records from dolls and only those from manufacturers where they're equal, then basically that's an outer join now instead of an inner join. And I'll go to datasheet view, and now it'll include this extra doll that didn't have a manufacturer. So again, that's the that doesn't necessitate like if I go to relationships, being that I delete the relationship in the query, it doesn't change the fact that the relationship between these two tables still exists. The data is always going to filter and feed the same exact way, but just so happens in this query, I'm just going to have like an outer join, and like how you and also like when you try to adjust, like say if I change the character's name in the query and then I close it out, yes, and then I open up query 1 again, it'll save like the adjustment in the character's name, but overall in the when I open up the dolls table, yeah, so when you adjust the character in the query, it will adjust it in the table too, just because the relationship exists. Yeah, so I guess now I'm going to do like the query wizard. So I'm going to open up query wizard. So simple query basically is like clicking query design. So I'm going to skip right to the Crosstab query. So let me just open up the Crosstab query. The Crosstab query is really good for like creating like a row and then a column, and then summing that row versus that column. So the row will be like product categories, and then this is the row right here, and then the columns where it says header, that would basically be like you could do countries, so you could do like products on this line, and like it'd be like bikes, computers, keyboards, and then header will be like United States, Canada, etc. Or the header will be like January, February, March, April, May. So I guess the first thing I'm going to do for the Crosstab query is I'm going to select manufacturers, and I'm going to select next. You could only work with one table or one query at a time, so you can make a query based on all the tables before you actually make the Crosstab query. So for this, I'm going to select, let me go to dolls actually. Dolls, and manufacturer ID has that'll be like the category, because manufacturer ID is basically the different manufacturers. And then for the next thing, you select the column headings. So I'm going to press back. So right now you select the row headings. I just select the manufacturers, and then up here I'm going to select purchase date as the columns, and then I'm going to do by month. So be by month, because when you work with dates you could select month, quarter, year, And then over here for the purchase price, I want to sum. So basically you select the rows, you select the columns, and then you sum up whatever total you want to do. And you can't have more than one column for Crosstab queries, like one column value. Like it could either be countries or it could be dates or months, but the rows you aren't limited. And then click over here. If you include row sums, then that includes a total in addition to like the total by the month. So it includes a total overall for the manufacturers, and then it includes a total by the month. You could uncheck this and it'll just include the months. So I'm going to include it and then press finish. So notice how this is the total of these two, and then this is the total by each of the months. So this is an example of a crosstab query. So I'll go over more crosstab queries later on in the video, like the very end. It's good for just grouping data and summing data across different categories. And then so I'm going to go to create and query wizard and find duplicates. When I find duplicates, it returns the duplicate records for whatever column you're looking at and returns other columns in the second option. So I'm going to work with, I guess, dolls, and then I guess date acquired. So I want to find all of the dolls that were acquired on the same day, and then what I want to return is basically everything else. So finish, yes. So over here, date acquired, notice how it includes any dolls that were acquired on the same day, and then all those other details are just other columns that were included. So this is what find duplicate does. It basically just finds the duplicates within the table. So I'm going to go to Query Wizard and find Unmatched Query Wizard. So basically what this does is it returns items in one table that don't appear in the other table based on a column. So if I go to dolls and then manufacturers, and they're linked by manufacturer ID to ID, and click next. And what fields do I want to see in the results? I want to see, I think, all of them. And then finish. Yes. So basically this returns the dolls that don't have manufacturers. So this didn't have a manufacturer, so it returned B222. And I guess let me just go over that again because that seemed kind of fast. So right now I'm searching up dolls, and the related records are in manufacturers. So they're linked by manufacturer ID to ID. And I want to find out which one doesn't have a manufacturer ID. So I click finish, and it's already open. So that's how you find anything that isn't the same between the two tables. So and it's based on a certain column. So this one is the one that's not the same between the two tables. So this one's blank, and then this one doesn't have any blanks as the manufacturers. I guess if I did like this and 2006 and close that, and let me see if I refresh this, close that. So I'm going to create and query design, query wizard, no, I'll close this out. So find unmatched, dolls, manufacturers, same thing, include, finish, yes. So this still didn't have a manufacturer. So, I mean, there are other, besides like the query wizard and like all this other stuff. I mean, there's like SQL. If you want to learn SQL, I made a SQL video, SQL video from this one Amazon book. It's SQL in 10 minutes, and it's an hour-long video and has all the different like SQL stuff. Because when you're actually working in Access, it actually creates a SQL for a lot of the stuff you're writing. So I guess let me open up a new database. It's gonna take a few seconds to load, but in this thing I'm going to show you like the union query. So basically, in Access, it doesn't really have like a union query, so you have to write it in SQL. You just do create query design, and then you go to SQL view, and then this is your view, and you basically just type this text right here. And what's done with unions is it has to have so basically when you do a union, you put like the table dot the column, the table dot the column, and which table you selected it from, and then you union it. And when you click run, it shows so let me open up the customers and the employees table and close that out. So this one has 3 and this one has 10, so this returned 12. So the reason, let's see which one didn't include. It didn't include Patrick Persuasion. No, it didn't include Chung Zhu, because Chung Zhu appears in both these tables. So what union does is it eliminates all of the duplicates, but union all, now we have 13 records because it includes Chung Zhu twice. Yeah, it includes Chung Zhu twice. So union all includes all of them. But I mean, I go over unions and union all in my SQL video a little bit better. And I guess that's probably it for this chapter. Yeah, so now I'm going to go over to chapter 7, which includes like calculated fields and functions. And I mean, this is kind of where you start to see like how Access can be kind of useful and how you can update data. So I guess the first thing I'm going to do is show you, let's say calculated fields are good because like when you're creating a table, you don't want like a calculated field like let's see, create and table, and then go to design view, press OK. You don't want to really create a calculated field here at the table level, because then every single time you access the table you have to do calculations, and they're kind of slow. So basically doing queries and then adding calculated fields to the queries themselves, then you can only do the calculations once you're working with the table, so it's a little bit faster. And you could also adjust the stuff at the the query level. So Access will generate the calculation when you run the query, and it won't really change the table at all. So that's why it's kind of useful to do it in the query, whereas if it's a calculated field and you're adjusting it in the table, then it'll change all the numbers, and I mean, if you just have like it separated in a query, it's a little bit easier to keep it separate. So in this functions practice, I wrote out most of the thing. So basically I took like the product name, the price from the products. So here is what I did over here is I named the column as price with tax and then semicolon, and then I did open brackets products dot close brackets dot price, open bracket price, and then I multiplied it by 1.1. So I multiplied the price in the products table by 10%. I increased it by 10%, and that's what this column returns. So if I click run, here's the price with tax. So this is this price times 10% more. So that's how you multiply a column by whatever. So you could do math, you could do minus. If you want to just subtract the price by 1.1, you could do division, divide by 1.1, multiplication, addition, if you want to add 1.1. So the reason I include the brackets around this is you don't need to include the brackets, but if your columns have spaces, then you need to. Otherwise you could just do products.price, because the reason you have to do .price at all is you need to specify which table it is, because there are multiple tables. If there were only one table, then you could just do price times 1.1. But since there are multiple tables, you have to do table.price. And then over here is I did day since order was placed. So I did date, the date function, which returns today's date, and then I subtracted that by the orders table dot date placed. So how many days was it since the order was placed? We got today's date minus the day that the order was placed. So I click run. So the date the order was placed was August 7, 2002. So it's been 4,844 days since that day. So I'll go to design view, and then you could do day since Christmas. So I did pound Christmas pound, and then minus orders dot date placed. So this is how many days it was since last Christmas. So it's been so last Christmas was, I guess, December 25th, 2019, so it was a little bit like 300 or so less days. And then design view. Scroll over. So this one I did first name last name, so I did customers.first name, and I put an ampersand here which concatenates and customers last name. So it basically just combines the two columns into a single thing. Since that kind of looks bad, you could do and double quote space double quote and, so you could do two concatenations, and now the first name and last name have space in between them, and FNLN. So go to design view, and I'll go to rounded tax. Just expand these columns real quick. So rounded tax, you do a round function, and then you do open parentheses, and then open bracket products.price, comma 1. So the comma indicates like an argument, and then 1 is I just wanted 1 decimal point, so I just rounded the products to the price. And so this was 55.5, so this rounded to 55.6. And I mean, access it'll round the numbers like how you round the numbers normally. And so I'll go to, but it doesn't like round them in like a random way. So you go to design view, and like this function is left open parentheses products comma 2, so it returns the first two letters of the product name in the products table. So this is chocolate jasmine tea, return CH. So over here, the month of order. So this one I did Datepart, and then open parentheses, double quotes M, comma, orders dot date placed, close bracket, close parentheses. So what this does is it returns the month of the date part for the orders and date placed. So the date placed was August, so this returns the month, which is 8. 8 is August. So that's what's kind of cool with Datepart. You can kind of try to pull out whichever part of the day you need. Let me see, I think you could do like year, click run. So it pulls out 2007. You could do probably year, it returns nothing, that's wrong, forever. Year. You could do year. Y is, you could do day, so you could return the day with D. So this was 6, this was 13, so you could return the day. You could return the week. So I don't know how week works. I don't care. So yeah, day part, you could return whatever part of the day. And then I guess here's like a really overly complicated function for no reason. So here's left of products, product name, and how many strings do I want? I want in the string, I want products, product name, and comma, I want where the first space begins, and then I want -1. So basically, I want in string, it returns how many, the length of the string for products, product name, and it returns wherever the first space is. So basically returns the first space in the product name, and then -1 as the length that it gives as a number. So it'll return basically the first word. So I click run, and over here it just, instead of, it finds where this is, and then it just returns the length of the first word. So chocolate, maple, chocolate. So you could like obviously just work around with words and stuff with the in string, the left, mid, search functions. And then here's like a null thing. So NZ, open parentheses, bracket, products.price, comma 1. So whenever there's a null value, I want to replace it with whatever's after the comma, which is 1 here. So say this doesn't have a price over here, so this is 1. Doesn't have a price, so it's 1. So I guess that's kind of useful if you're working with averages in a group. So whenever you're trying to like average something, if there's no price and it's just null, you can replace the nulls with zeros, so your average is actually includes them, because otherwise the axis will just ignore it. So if you're working with like statistics and stuff. So I guess now I'm going to go to the totals query. So I'm going to go to the products table. Did I even go over calculated fields? No. Oh yeah, I could go over, I guess, the expression builder now, and then I'll go to totals. So under design view, you could go over here and you can right click and then go to build. So this brings up the expression builder. So what's cool about this is you can go to your database, your tables, you could select each of the tables, and then you could select each of the columns, double click it, and then it'll put order status dot status. So the exclamation point here is the same as the period. It's just a exclamation point instead. And you could do like the expression building this way. So you could do order status is kind of stupid. Let me go to like customers, orders, order details. So order details price plus 1. So notice how it puts expr1. That's just the default name for the calculation. You could change this to whatever you want as the column header. So this would be like header 1 or header 12. So let me build like another build, and I mean over here this is the database, boutique fudge. So these are the fields over here. Expression categories. These are the fields down here, but here are the fields in each of the tables. Here are the fields down here that are currently a part of this functions practice query. Because here's like first word, null, etc. And then over here you have the functions. So here's the built-in functions for access. So this has all the different functions, such as like math, like absolute value. You can do absolute value of like the order quantity. So you could do all these different functions in here. You got date time. You could like add like the difference between the dates, the dates and stuff, and you do conversions, and you can like reformat stuff to like currencies, and you could do all these math stuff and if statements. You could do if something's true, then something else. So it has all these different functions. Like the formatting options. Let's see, formatting. Is there formatting? No, there isn't. Oh, there's a format function though. I don't know where the format function is. It's probably pointless to even look. Formatting. Oh, here's the format function. So here's the format function, and you could use the format function to do currency, percentage, scientific, yes, no, etc. But that's pretty pointless. I mean, yeah. So that's kind of like the expression builder. It's the same, like you could do Datepart from here. Instead of writing it out like I did down there, you could do click up here and do Datepart. So you could do all these functions. You got like the now function, got the date function, and like functions can also be used as criteria too. So not only do you write it up in the field to do the calculation, but you could also say like you want to filter by only, let me go over to like the product. So the product name you could actually filter by like the left of product name tab, so I don't have to write the entire thing. Well, let me do left of products dot product name comma 2 close parentheses equals ch for like chocolate, I guess. So I'll click run. So it only brings up the two that have the first two letters as ch. So you could use functions as filters too, if you want to just filter by a certain amount of things. And then I think that's it for chapter 7. Well, I mean, they do another thing. yeah, they do the totals query here, so close this out and then go to products table and do totals, which is under design. So I guess I gotta go to design view. Oh, I have to create a query. Products table, add price column 3 times. Alright, so query design, products, price. Alright. Oh, yeah. And then design and totals. So what this does is you could get like the sum of the prices, the max of the prices, and the min of the prices. So right now we're working with this column here. So the max is 100, just eyeballing it. The min is 11, and then it'll return the sum of all the prices. So I'll go to datasheet view. So it does all that. So total is basically just total a column. So if I go to design view, and let me just add like a product category. Let me cut that out. Product name, so you kind of visualize it a bit better. So that's kind of dumb. What do I want to group by? Group by product category ID. That's a cooler grouping. Product category ID. So I go to datasheet view. So the beverages, the min of the price is 12, the max of the price is that, and the sum of the price is that. So it works good for like categories and stuff, just to sum up stuff and do totals. Let me go to design view. So group by basically groups whatever this is by it. So say if products has beverages on it twice, it just smashes them together, and then it gives the minimum, the maximum, and the sum, or whatever you select down here. So you can do min, max, sum, standard deviation, etc. So that's kind of how the totals work. So the thing that's, so say if I do average here, let me just only focus on average. So if I do the average here, that'll give the average for each of these. But say if I just made the price of this, if I left it as like null for each of them, like there's no data here whatsoever. If I left them all null, and then I tried to design view and do an average price, the average price ends up coming out to like 24, because let me see data sheet. They're all like null right now. So price and the products, the average should be 35, yeah. Alright, so it's 35. I was wondering why it said 24. So the reason it says 35 is it ignores all the nulls and it just takes the average as the single thing that's here. But say if I did 0 on each of these, let me just do this just to show it. So if you do 0 on each of these and then you click run, it actually does the average of, how many records are there? 14. So it does 35 divided by 14. So it actually averages based on the total amount of records. and let me close out products and then view it. And yeah, see it's 2.5. So I wonder why it was 2.69. Let me go to datasheet view, design view, products, and let me make this one null and say close. When you close the so I guess the last record didn't update, so it was at 2.69. So you have to really it updates each of the records as you change them, and then if you close out the actual table, then it updates the last record that you changed. Otherwise, it doesn't update the last one. So if it updates the last one, then if products. So basically, if you don't close out this table and you go to design and run, it doesn't factor in that last change. So I'm going to close this out and then go to design view and run, and it actually factors in that last change. So you gotta be careful when you're updating tables and stuff, because it doesn't filter, or I mean it doesn't change unless you close it out. And then I guess the parameters. You go to table customers at top right, select. Alright, so create. Alright. Let me think. So customers, table, so query design and customers. I want to work with customers, and these are all the columns here. So I'm going to click parameters, and the parameter I'm going to type is customer state, and I'm going to make this short text. Press OK, and over here I'm going to click state, and down here under criteria I'm going to write customer state from the parameter. So how this basically will work is, I want to save, yes, this will be query 2. When you save a query, it appears over here. So query 2, I'm going to double click this, and it's going to say what state. I'm going to say New York. So it brings up one record, which was New York. I'm going to go to design view and actually just bring up like first name and last name and save it and then run it. So this brings up Patrick Persuasion, and notice he's the only person that lives in New York. So basically parameters, you can apply them to criteria and then it'll automatically filter by that specific thing. You could also use parameters with the next stuff I'm going to show you in chapter 8, which is action queries, which you can use to update, append, and delete queries. So the first one I'm going to show you is, right before you make any action queries, you should always make a backup of your database. So go to File, Save As, Backup Database, Save As, and then I'll make another copy of your database so that you don't, because action queries are permanent, and any changes that you do can't be undone. You can't click undo. So, the first one, let me open up a different database. So, chapter 8. I'm going to open up the Boutique Fudge database and basic, so make backups. So you go to create and query design. So here's append, the append action query, here's the update action query, here's the delete action query. So the update query has the exclamation point, and on the side down here it has exclamation point. This is an update query, this is a delete query, and so I'm going to do the first one I'm going to do is an update query. So update, and I want to select category name, so products and product category, products, product category, and I'm going to select category name and price. So I selected those two things. So I want to update this to price times 1.1. So what this will do is under the products table, it's going to update the price times 1.1 under the products table. So let me look at what the products prices are. So this is 16.49 for chocolate jasmine tea, ID 1. And let me click I wrote the wrong bracket here. So let me click datasheet view. Click run. Yeah, so you're about to update 14 rows. Click yes. Alright, so now it products. So instead of 16.49, it's multiplied by so 16.489 times 1.1 is 18.13. So I multiplied it by 10% extra. So that was the update query. Basically, you just run it and you could change certain fields. So I'm going to show you the append query. It just adds one table to another table. So the thing about this is the data types must match. The fields you select from the source table and the fields and the target table must have matching data types, and the names don't need to match. They just have to have the same data types. And you can ignore some fields. Access just leaves them blank. And Access also enforces all normal rules for adding a record, so it can't violate the uniqueness of a primary or unique index. So you can't insert or append data that is duplicate to what already exists. So if you're creating a table and you have a group of workers, you can't just upload another worker if that you have unique workers, because then you just multiply however many workers you have. And then if the destination table has an auto number, then you don't supply a value for that field, because Access automatically generates an auto number, as is tradition. So I'm going to open up a different database. Which is the marketing database. And I'm going to open up actually I'm not going to open up this one. I'm going to open up the sales one just to show it before I append to it. So this is a database where, because I'm going to append from one database to another database. So here are the potential clients, all blank. There's nothing there. And then here is the marketing. It's just going to take a few seconds to load. And so click here. Let me go to transfer names, design view. So I basically already made this. So create first name, last name, and then click append. And then it's going to append to. F name and last name, and I'm leaving out ID because the ID on the other table and this one are both auto numbers, so there's no reason to even add it here. And I'm going to click run. Let me just do this over. So create query design, tables, contacts, first name, last name, append. So I'm going to select this one. I want to select this database over here. Press OK and click run. Oh, you have to click where you want to append it to. So I want to append this one to f_name and this one under f_name. Those are the names of the columns in the other table. I don't know, this one worked the last time I did it. Oh, it's because I had the table open. So, yeah, I had the table open. So it's going to append to the first name, last name in the sales table. So remember I showed you the sales table is blank. Let me just close this out, run it. Yes, you're going to append 3 rows. Yes, so I'm going to close this out. And the sales database was blank before, but now the sales database has those 3 rows. What it did is it appended those 2 columns, and then it also just auto-generated the IDs for the auto-generated ID, because you don't need to append auto numbers. And then the last thing is, let me open up marketing database, the last action query. So we got the update query to adjust and change records. You got the append query to add table to another table. And then you got the delete query, which is, let me go to design view, I already wrote it. So this is going to select all the columns in contacts, and it's going to delete from, so it's going to delete all the contacts from here. And you could also do like delete where, and then you could do like the date, like so 1/1/2020. So if I had like a day column here, I could do like delete where, so you could only delete based on this criteria. I guess let me do a delete query in this, so I could show me actually deleting in based on a day. So design view. So if I do a delete query, you basically create query design and then you fill it out this way, so you can delete anything that's before this day. And then it's from orders. So you click the orders table. So I want to delete anything before 2020. So I'll click Design view, run, yes. So you can't delete all these other tables. They have relationships with this, so it kind of blocks you, but I'm going to click yes. So it can't delete it because all these other tables have relationships with it. So access doesn't let you delete because order details is linked to it, customers is linked to it. But if it wasn't linked, then the delete thing would totally work. So let's see, if you want to find out what's out of stock in Boutique Fudge, this is just random. Go to products, create, query design, products, and order details. And you select units in stock, which is here, and product name. And you do criteria 0. And then up here you could do property sheet and unique values, yes, and run. So this shows the unique product that's out of stock, which is chocolate jasmine tea. But if on the property sheet you didn't, you have to click here. If you have said no, then it would show chocolate jasmine tea out of stock twice. So if you just want like the unique out of stock, you could do unique values there. So that's how you get what's out of stock. And if I just press that, then it'll have that. Obviously, each of the products has the same in stock multiple times, but if you just wanted like the unique stock for each of them, you could do unique values. And then chapter 9 is basically crosstab queries, and it goes over pivot tables, but pivot tables were removed from Access 2013 onward because they're pointless, and you could do that in Excel. And crosstabs are similar to the total query, and I mean crosstabs only work with one table or one query, so you make the queries beforehand. And so I'm going to go to chapter 9's database. And over here I'm going to go to Query Wizard, Crosstab Query, OK, and ordered items isn't on there. Category, product name, ordered items is the query. Query ordered items, and then category product name. I don't know what category is. Oh, product category and product name. So I'm going to do two categories as the rows. So initially you have the category, and then you have the specific product, and then I'm going to do by country as the columns. So country, country 1, country 2, country 3. And then I'm going to sum up the order quantities. Sum, next, finish. So all the bikes, all the accessories, here are all the individuals products, and then here are the total orders for each of the individual bikes, and then it's by each of the countries. And then design view. Here is the design view of the crosstab query. So group by, group by, group by, sum, row, the value, column, the row, and the row. And this is just the total of the order quantity as a sum. So that's the second column, which is this column here. And that's just why it's just a row heading, because it's like it's a column. But I mean, these are the columns at the top, the country, and then it's separated by product category and product name. So if I delete product name, it's just going to be the categories, which is accessories, bikes, clothing, components. So crosstab queries are good for grouping data, kind of like totals. But I mean, totals, it's kind of, let me see the difference. So it's basically, this is the totals. It'll basically just total each of them right there, and then crosstab, it'll just total it sideways. So Australia accessories, Australia bikes, Australia clothing. It'll just total it right there as a single column. For this one, it'll total each of the countries, and then it'll have the product categories across the top instead of side by side to the column. So it basically just splits out an additional category across the side, and then keeps the original category on this side, and then it totals it that way. That's basically how a crosstab query works. And the drawbacks is you could only have one column of grouping, and you could have, well, at least in the wizard, you could have 3 rows of